Welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner. This week we are joined with Paul, as always. Paul, how's it going?
It's going well, man. Having a friggin' awesome week, actually. Just traded in my truck for a new car. My girlfriend's moving in. Training's going well. Feeling good.
So this is like the peak, and then when she moves in, you'll start to slowly notice the regression of quality of life and everything else.
You start to notice like the big bags under my eyes. Like
Is that why you got rid of the truck?
No.
Oh,
I actually have. Okay. So I drive a Dodge Ram, like a lifted Ram. I traded it in for a Jeep SRT. So
Those are nice.
500 horsepower Jeep. So it's a pretty cool car, somewhat irresponsible.
Well, I know the truck was giving you issues though too, right?
Yeah, the truck was also like the sign of the end of my marriage. So like signed my divorce paperwork, got rid of the truck, new car, girlfriend's moving in. It's good transition.
Dang, it sounds like more like a midlife crisis to me than a transition.
Well, with the shit that I've done, I'm 34. It's probably midlife. So I mean,
the neck tattoo, the Dodge.
every time I change to get something, my wife's like, "You having a midlife crisis?" I'm like, "No, just because I want to do something different."
Oh man, you're back and forth with your wife on social media kills me. It's
Dude,
so good.
It's way more inappropriate behind the scenes and offensive. So, she's always like, "We should write that. We should put that on the internet." I'm like, "No, I don't think we should."
No,
people are gonna get mad.
So for those of you guys listening, not watching, we are joined today by Chris Tuttle. He is a dietitian. He has his MS in nutrition. He's an IFBB pro as well. He owns with his wife, Alexia, Tuttle Nutrition, which is their nutrition company. And he's a registered dietitian, which I just touched on. So thanks for coming on the podcast, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No, man, it's a pleasure. We're big fans of yours over here. I've been following you for quite a while, and I'm sure Paul has as well. You put out some really good content for Animal and Universal and stuff, and then also on your own Instagram, the rants that you do and the information that comes out of them, not just ranting to rant, but the actual good information that comes out of them is greatly appreciated in the industry, man.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's like, you know how it is. I'm sure you guys deal with this too. And what you guys do, it's like, sometimes you want to rant because the stuff that you see angers you, but at the same time, it's like people tune you out, right? You gotta give them a solution to what is going on or alternative to what a lot of people fall into. And sometimes it's frustrating. And I guess what gets frustrating about it, what fuels the rants, is because it's over and over and over. It's like, I'm saying the same thing over and over again to people. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, where are you guys getting this information from? And that's I'm always like scratching my head, you know?
Yeah, that's the great thing about the internet, right? Is like it's full of information that could be very useful, but it is definitely clouded with a lot of mist of bullshit out there. And I like what you said though, the idea that you're not only ranting about something, but you're giving people like the know-how to fix it. Most people complain without actually having solutions to the thing they're complaining about. And then it just becomes white noise and you're just another person complaining. But the fact that you give things that can kind of maybe shift people's viewpoints in terms of how they think about things or how they ask better questions is something that is greatly needed.
Correct. Yeah. And I would say one universal thing across the board that I see with people is people try to attach to a particular concept or strategy without ever changing their outlook or mindset, when majority of people aren't progressing at whatever they're doing in life, not because their strategy is faulty, it's because their outlook and mindset keep bringing them back to square one again. And like, so, oh, this is not working. I go to this plan. Well, you've done 8 different plans here. Do you ever think that there's a possibility that there's something that you're doing wrong with each one of those plans? You know, because I meant to explain this in one of my rants one time. It's like, I've been with quite a few coaches in the industry and I've won with all of them. I've done well with all of them. And it scratches my head sometimes when people are like, oh, I haven't found the right coach yet. I'm like, that's usually a red flag. And that usually means that there's some sort of introspect that we got to figure out here that is the driving force and you keep failing. And that's hard for people to do. Humility and insight is very difficult.
Well, you're holding up a mirror to them. They don't want to, they don't want to look at that.
No. And there's always somebody out there that's going to accept a check and be like, the other guy was wrong. The other guy was wrong.
Yeah. The idea of extreme ownership is something that needs to be pushed upon people, right? Because if you're the common denominator for you and the several coaches that haven't worked well, it's usually the common denominator that's the issue. But it's so much easier to blame other people when you don't see the results that you're getting and the success that you think you should have, right? It's the idea of what you should have and what you think you're capable of, but not quite reaching. And it's never your fault. It's always someone else's.
Right. Or when people look at complexity of a program, whether training or nutrition, and they believe that the more complex it is, it equals more results received.
True. Yeah.
Right. Where it's like, well, I've been doing the basic stuff forever. This isn't working. And then you're like, oh, have you gotten stronger? Oh yeah, I put like 100 pounds on my deadlift. I've done this and that. So it is working. Yeah, but this is going to be better because this makes me do this, and I have to do jumping jacks upside down and do all that. And then they do that and they're like, oh, it didn't work. It's in some aspect of the internet makes things easier. But I also feel that when I first started into bodybuilding, it was easier because there's less information.
Yeah.
You had to stay within your own realm and figure out, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm eating. Okay, what do I need to do moving forward? Versus like, there's 500 opinions. Maybe I am doing this wrong because all these guys are saying something different. And then it makes you question everything, versus being at the drawing board by yourself with no teacher,
Right. And it seemed to be like more back in the day when the forums were big, it was a little bit more vetted educational stuff, right? Like when you went on to Intense Muscle and you had guys like Skip and Dr. Scott and Dante, you didn't really just have people going on there and just posting whatever, because you'd have 10 or 12 guys kind of going at them with the different sciences and the different things that could maybe discredit what they're saying. But now it's such an open, broad internet to where they can just say whatever on Instagram and there's no rebuttals. There's no necessary, retribution for bad information anymore.
Right. Because it starts like this. I was born with gnarly genetics. I eat McDonald's once a week and I'm going to post my crappy deadlift form and I'm going to give advice on it. And people are going to listen because people follow me because of my genetics or because what I represent or how they identify with me. So that must mean I'm a deadlifting expert.
Right.
That's kind of the name of the game, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, definitely. Before we get into the topic, I wanted to ask you, you've transitioned from the IFBB stage and now you're into more of kind of just active, doing a bunch of other different things, but still lifting and stuff. And I know you posted some crazy pictures not too long ago before the bicep injury of you dieting down and looking really good. And maybe the idea was to step back on stage. I'm not sure exactly, but how are things now that you're no longer an IFBB pro or no longer pursuing that endeavor? Like, how was that transition going from being the competitive IFBB pro to now more of just like I would hate to say recreational athlete on the side, but that's kind of what it is with the boxing.
It's 100% what it is.
Yeah.
So I've always been a realist, you could say. Some people can call it a pessimist. I just think it's being realistic. I quit racing motocross when I was 21 and I did it my entire life. My favorite thing to do in the world, but my body felt like shit every day. And I was spending 30 grand a year just racing. This is not sustainable. So I wanted to quit and do something else. And my friends were like, dude, you're a professional. Why would you stop? I'm like, this isn't practical. Like, I can't continue this. This is unsustainable and I feel horrible. So I was able to walk away and be able to try something new, which was bodybuilding. So fast forward into where I am bodybuilding at the end, I sustained a lot of injuries from training like a total asshole when I was in my younger years. And I had to reap those consequences of wear and tear in my body, not to mention motocross probably beat the crap out of my body. Mm-hmm. And, the first catastrophic injury was New York Pro, before New York Pro. Actually, before I turned pro, it was a pec tear, and then a hamstring tear, and then my knee. And then I started to, obviously improvise, lateral transfer, figure out what I can do and stimulate the muscle and still be able to grow and grow. But then my body started to continuously break down. And then I'm saying to myself, my wife, I reached up to like 265 in the off season. I was about to go into open. My body felt like my body looked great, but I felt horrible.
Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I'm 38 years old. My body hurts. And I'm able to do less and less in the gym functionally as you get that big, right? Because sometimes like when you get that big, your deadlift form starts to deteriorate, your squat form's off because you're too muscly. And given the injuries I sustained, a lot of my trainings become so restricted where like I was stuck with only doing 3 movements for legs. It's like I could only do three different ones, and I was doing that. And I'm like, what am I doing? I go, I'm 265, I'm 38, my body hurts. I don't feel very good. Am I ever going to be an open top competitor? No. Could I continue to grow and improve? Yes. But what is it worth at this time? Bodybuilding obviously is an expense. It's not making me money.
No.
My business, me helping my clients is. And then I was like, you know what? I just don't think I want to do this anymore. This is not, and I had that same feeling I did when I quit motocross. Like, this isn't sustainable. Am I going to be that guy in the gym at 45 years old who has knee replacements and is like destroyed, and me walking around like, when I was your age, I used to do this. then I could just never give it up and then have a heart attack when I'm 50. Just not interested in that,
Yeah.
So I said to myself, like, one thing I've always wanted to do is I always wanted to learn how to box. Do I want to box in a ring? I don't know, but I've always wanted to learn how to do it. And then when I went into my friend who's into MMA and does strongman, Matt Mills, professional strongman, Matt's like, dude, come down to the MMA gym. I'll introduce you to a few people and then you can get acquainted. And I did it. And it's just like, I was embarrassed. Like, I can't fight at all. It's like, I'm out of breath in like 15 seconds, like I can't move fast. I can't laterally move fast. So I'm like, man, it's like being big's worthless in a fight.
Yeah.
If after 30 seconds, you're done. you know, as soon as you gas out, forget it. So then I started to say, like, you know what, I kind of want to feel functional, feel good. And I want to dive into my clients. Now, another thing that has changed significantly in, I would say, my progress being a bodybuilder is my whole time I was as a dietitian working at a hospital, I was really able to focus on bodybuilding 100%. 24/7 bodybuilding. I would go to work 40 hours a week, come home, go to work, come home. A few clients on the side, but nothing demanding. Then my business grew and grew and grew to the point where we're working 70 hours a week now. And it became like my business is first.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't go to the gym this morning. I got 8 clients competing today. I got to wait. I end up going at night. I'm tired.
Yeah.
I waited 2 hours. I waited an hour too long before to train. And now I feel hungry to my workout. My workout sucks. You know what I mean? Mm. And then it's like business first. My clients overseas, I got to get up at 1 o'clock in the morning, answer their emails. So that really kind of hindered it and kind of pulled me away because, like, let's be honest, that's what's making me money. I love helping people. It's my passion too. So it was really kind of pulling away from bodybuilding. So the combination of those two just pushed me where I am now. And to be honest with you, I'm happier than pig and shit. Like, I've been obsessed with competition my entire life since I was like 6, right? I got to win motocross, got to win, got to ride, got to get better, to bodybuilding, got to get better. It's the first time in my life where I'm like, I don't have to prove anything to anybody, any to myself either. It's like, I can go to the gym today or I'm not, but I do get competitive with my clients. And I think that's one way I have my outlet of being competitive.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where I'm at now, man.
Yeah. I was going to ask you how you finding that competitive outlet. Cause I came to that same realization. I was powerlifting, and then there was like a handful of times where I was almost done with powerlifting. And then there was this one time I had to cross the street and I had to run across the street, and it was, my knees hurt and it just felt like crap. And I was like, this is not good. Like, I used to be in the military. I used to play football, rugby. I used to run an 18-minute 3 mile. Now I can't even run across the street. I was like, yeah. I got to change things up because I've added 6 pounds to my total in 2 years and it's not worth it anymore. So then I just started doing, I started going hiking instead of training. I started doing other things. And then that brought me to like, man, my life is more enjoyable.
100%.
Yeah, while doing these things. But I still had to be competitive. So then I found jujitsu, and jujitsu is allowing me to have that competitive outlet where it's like, you just go roll, and every day you go to the gym, you get to compete with someone in some aspect of things. And that kind of fulfills that. And then I do competitions here and there, but it's still something that is bringing more enjoyment and like improving my quality of life. It doesn't hinder anything that I'm doing. And I found that powerlifting kind of did that a little bit.
It's 100%. You just like, we're in the same exact situation in the realization where you're at this point in your life where your body is. And it's like, wow, if I continue this route, it's kind of like how you treat a car. You can make a car go 200,000 miles, or you can make it go 40,000 miles and beat the shit out of it. And like, it's like, I'm not interested in shortening the lifespan of my body anymore. I rather lateral transfer into something else where it might involve my mind more. Like, like with jujitsu, it's like, it's a lot mental.
Right.
And like, just like boxing, it's like, there's a lot of strategy versus just using your body. Like obviously powerlifting and bodybuilding have a mental aspect of it, powerlifting more, but it's a lot more body. And when you get older, your body just doesn't have that ability to recover those hard training sessions. And obviously you're not as strong and powerful when you get older. And I was the same realization, dude. And it's like you said, sometimes too, when you pull yourself out of that extreme competition of obsession, you're able to like appreciate more things in life. You go outside and it's sunny outside. You're like, oh my God, it's a nice day today. When you're 15, that doesn't even cross your mind.
Right.
You're like sunny, like the birds, the animals, who gives a shit? You're just worried about something else. But like, as you get older, you start to appreciate more aspects of life, and overall quality of life is just tremendously better.
Yeah.
Tremendously better.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about like starting something new that you absolutely suck at and just humbling yourself down and knowing that no matter what, every day you show up, you're going to just get a little bit better. And it's just nice to do that.
I love it. I love it. You know, it is like that. The learning curve is addicting.
Yeah.
And I still don't get, and I can't identify when people say, well, I don't want to do it if I'm not good at it, or I don't want to do it because I'll be starting as a novice again. And I'm like, are you doing this for recognition from others? Or are you really doing this to challenge yourself and be better? Because let's be honest, if I'm doing something and I'm awesome and I'm the best guy at the track riding that day, I didn't learn anything.
Right.
You didn't learn anything. You're not challenging. Now you go ride with a couple of people that are a lot better and you're trying to pace them. That's more fun because now you're being pushed. You're out of your comfort zone. You're learning. To me, learning something and improving is gratifying. Being uncomfortable is gratifying.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, that's what's addicting.
Yeah. They've actually done research on that too. They did research with these nuns, and they had these nuns and they did a longitudinal research on them. And the ones that had a higher quality of life are the ones that constantly tried new things and challenged themselves. They lived longer. They were healthier during that longer lifespan. And they just had more happiness and more sense of enjoyment and fulfillment within their life because they just did a bunch of things that they weren't good at that were brand new. Whereas if you're constantly doing the things that you're good at, even though you may be doing new things at the things that you're good at, it's not as neurologically stimulating. You don't get the same neuroplasticity that you would as if you were doing something completely brand new that you just absolutely suck at.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I always tell people that too. You know, a lot of people are afraid to do things. They're like, hey, can I come with you to the boxing gym? I don't want to go by myself. I'm like, yeah, man, come on. And it's like, dude, just it's not that intimidating, dude. Just show up. It's fun. Nobody's going to go in there and beat the shit out of you. You know what I mean? Like, it's a different type of environment than people think it is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. I know Paul is going to be transitioning to like a new sport. He's on his way to his last powerlifting meet, maybe at the end of the year. And yeah, we're kind of all going through that. And I think it's good to talk about that because a lot of people have issues with the self-identity as this person. And now what do I do with the rest of my life? Where, you know, you had your nutrition business, right? But other people don't have that. Other people may work 9 to 5 and their sense of belonging, their sense of reality is those 3 hours in the gym that they can spend lifting with their friends. So how do you are no longer that person anymore, right? And I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's always hard to tell them that you can still go to the gym with your friends, you can still train, you can still do all the things you're doing. It just doesn't have to be so focus oriented, so with the blinders on, right? There's other things you can do, there's other friends you can make, right? There's other aspects of life that you can venture out into. And yeah, change is scary for everyone, but I think change is what creates and evolves you as a person. And staying within your own bubble, even you moving from Connecticut that you lived your whole life to now Texas, it's like these type of transition and changes is what continues to push you to evolve and become a better human being, I feel like.
Yeah, and you just said something, a couple things. I want to lose track of either one of them. The job. So one thing about bodybuilders, powerlifters is, not all of them, more bodybuilders and powerlifters, there's an insecurity issue there, right? You got to be muscular, got to stand out, have to make an impact in the crowd, need to be different. So that a lot of times instills in somebody's identity of like the fear of getting small, because sometimes it's a different, like they might compete and love competing, but the initial drive to get bigger was insecurity from being skinny. So now removing themselves from bodybuilding is not only just changing their hobby or their outlet, but it's also changing their identity and facing their fear dead on of being skinny. Like I can't tell you how many people I've had reach out to me, even professional bodybuilders who are thinking about retiring, saying, how do you do it? I'm so fearful of getting smaller. It's like, dude, I'm 220 right now. I was 265 like a year and a half ago. It doesn't bother me because
20 is also not that small.
yeah. But it's like, it doesn't bother me because like I feel better, but now I'm doing something else. That muscle's not useful in what I'm trying to do. And not to mention that everybody going into bodybuilding, getting that big, should understand that that's not sustainable for a lifetime, or your life's going to be very short.
Very short, yeah.
And the other thing you said about people having fear, people can't let fear keep the blinders on from what life has to offer. Like you said about moving, people said to me, oh, do you know any friends there? Your family there? Nope. Oh, is it a job? Nope. Oh, really? Aren't you afraid? No, it's just even more exciting. It's like my wife and I are like, we already went, one of my clients lives about hour and a half from here, and he's a cool dude, Nick, and we met him last night at a burger place, him and his wife. It's just nice to experience new things, but like you can't let the unknown or being uncomfortable make you think that life's only this big.
Right.
You know, it's like life is so much, and a lot of people inspire to be people that constantly do new things, and like, oh, that's amazing, I like following that guy. Well, you could be that guy. You just have to understand that fear comes with unknown. The unknown's okay. The unknown can be exciting. It doesn't have to be scary,
Yeah, exactly.
So much of all of this is like hitting me like home, because like Tony said, I'm not quite at the retirement stage yet. I'm kind of in that, my body's been fucked up for a really long time. So that like problem and me finding solutions to training around is that novelty that I'm looking for. So I'm still making progress, still able to train around these things. So it's still kind of fun. Still getting like, progress every week sort of thing, but I'm still doing shit outside the gym. I'm taking a deload 3 weeks out from a meet where otherwise I'd be like this big because I want to go on a trip out east. Like I'm trying to find that balance of, can I still progress my numbers and enjoy my life? But I know that's not sustainable. My first 6 years of my powerlifting career, I was driving like that guy who wants to burn his car out in 40,000 kilometers. I don't want to do that anymore, but I still love powerlifting. So how can I progress that over time? And yeah, maybe this is my last meet. I kind of said 90% it's going to be my last meet. But actually a mutual friend of ours, Jay Nira, is one of my best friends. And he has some numbers that I'm very close to beating. So I got to beat him first, and then I'll retire.
Yeah. Because the idea.
No, he's not coming back. Fuck that. He can't even bend his knees.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, this weekend is like a realization of kind of sticking with the sport too long, as you have like Evander Holyfield and Vitor Belfort boxing in an exhibition match,
God.
right? And Tito Ortiz versus Anderson Silva. And it's like, those are people that can't quite ever disconnect who they are from what they were. And that's going to cause a lot of long-term damage. And you see that a lot in the military community as well, where people get out and they have this hard time of transferring from military community brotherhood to civilian life, where it's not the same camaraderie. And I think that's where a lot of the depression and a lot of the suicide comes from within that community, is the self-identity of, this is who I am, this is all I know, and I can't really do anything else. It's a lot of self-doubt. It's a lot of the idea that you've done something for so long, and the idea of starting over is just not something that a lot of people want to think about. And that's what causes those depressive states. And it's good to hear from someone like you who's been at the top of their game in a couple of different aspects and has been able to transition pretty seamlessly, which is nice to see.
This conversation we're having is a conversation that should be happening a lot more with people like Jay Cutler. Anybody in any sport, Ricky Carmichael, anybody in any sport who's at the top of the game who stopped, because I know a lot of people are on the fence of this and they have the struggle, and some of them just never can let it go, even though they should let it go. And nothing against people who continue to do it. If you love it and your body's cooperating and your family's happy and your wife's happy and your relationships are happy, everything's balanced, by all means, go for it. But there's a lot of people on the fence who are scared and don't know how to digest or move on or change that mindset to experience new things. And I think this is a very important conversation many people just don't have,
Yeah, we talked about this the other day, the idea that if after every competition you have to write a apology note on Instagram telling everyone how sorry you are for how shitty of a person you've been the last 8 to 12 weeks, that should tell you that sport or whatever you're doing is not a good thing in your life, right?
Yeah, and that's where, like you said when you're at the point where you're in powerlifting and you're going to drive your car into 40,000 kilometers and be done, that looking back, it's being that way didn't accelerate your progress. It was just your mind was going a lot faster than your body could go. I've had that too. It's like in bodybuilding, at one point in bodybuilding, I quit and I came back. And when I came back and I didn't care, I won every show I did. And I put in less effort. I'm like, oh, this is weird. I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump into a show 11 weeks, see what happens. Oh, I won. I'll do another show. Oh, I won that one. Maybe I'll try nationals. And then it was like no pressure. And then the no pressure allowed me to gain more traction.
It's so funny. I'm literally doing the bare minimum possible volume I can think of right now. Literally, I did 2 sets of squats last week for 4 total reps. That was it. I've PR'd every single week for the last 2 months.
Yeah, your recovery is probably on point.
It's great. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I just have to do 1 rep today. Sweet. See you later.
It's fun, man. It's nice to have that freedom to explore too, which I think a lot of people get very narrow-minded, and this can bring us on to the nutrition stuff. Is like you talked about earlier, we get very narrow-minded of like, this is what works for me, and I'm afraid to like escape out that bubble. And I think it's just a lack of knowledge that hinders people from doing that. And it could be a fear of timeline. It could be a fear of nuance. It could be a lot of different things. But when it comes to nutrition, having this myopic viewpoint of like, this is the way I've been taught to diet, so this is now the only way to diet. Do you run into that a lot with your clientele? And how have you been able to overcome that at all? That stigma of, ultimate buy-in and dogmatic viewpoints?
Do you mean when clients come to me and they tell me they know it works for them?
Yeah, or they're like, I've only dieted on chicken and broccoli, and you're like, okay, well, we're going to do a flexible meal plan. And like, I'm never going to get lean on a flexible meal plan. I've only got lean off of chicken and broccoli.
All right. So there's a lot of psychological games I have to play with people, and I'll plug this. I have dieted somebody for a show on ice cream because they told me that backloading with junk food is the way they did it. So we accounted for calories, energy balance, and we got them shredded. We did it. I told them, this is not how I do things. I go, if this is what you want to do, we will give it a shot. But generally when people come to me, well, now I can do this because I have so many inquiries in the day. If something doesn't jive well, or I feel that we're not going to be a good match, I say, I can't help you.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I would work with people and I would say, listen, I understand what you're saying and I disagree with what you're saying. But if eating chicken and broccoli makes you feel better and you really truly believe you're going to perform better on it, then we're going to stay with chicken and broccoli. But I'm going to add in an apple and I'm going to add in, say, almonds, just for a sec. Add in these 2 extra foods. Are you okay with that? Yeah, I'll be okay with that. I'll be okay with that. Okay, good. Okay, now we're working with 2 other foods now. Now we have 4, and then they get results because now their mental barricade of attaching to something that they think is their antidote, they still have that, but they're also adopting what I'm doing. So now they're really happy. Sometimes you get somebody in bodybuilding and like you start telling them to do something that they're very uncomfortable with in preparation for a show, it doesn't work. Right. They're stressed out, they're worried, they're not getting sleep. So I try to meet a happy middle ground, but sometimes I put my foot down. I had an individual, he ended up doing very well. He won his classes and he was giving me ideas on what he wanted to do for carb up. And I go, listen, we're not doing that. Okay. You're going to follow what I'm going to tell you, because I'm going to tell you this. This is how I know how to carb people up. This is how I've been following you. This is what we're going to do. Okay. Got it. He goes, I got it. Okay. I'm like, all right. Okay. We're not going to do anything wonky or weird, because everybody has this plan of what they want to try. Right. Like, oh, I want to try to do this apple pie filling. We're not doing that either. We're going to stick with what we're doing and it works. Okay. If you want to do something else next time with somebody else, by all means do that, but we're going to do what we're doing now. So a lot of it is mental aspect in that regard for as far as preparation for shows. For general population, I get some people who were like, oh, I'm carb sensitive. Okay. Carb sensitive. All right, why are you carb sensitive? What happens? And then they try to explain. They're like, well, I try to lose weight and I cut my carbs out. And then when I eat carbs, I blow up. And then I'll have to explain to them why they're carb sensitive. Well, you're depriving your body of carbs. You're depleting yourself. You're losing the water. You're depleting the glycogen. And then when you binge eat on carbs, you blow up with water retention because the insulin release, your body's storing glycogen. There's probably extra salt in that meal. And they're like, oh, is that what it is? Yeah. And that's where like my education comes in, being able to explain to people at an 8th grade reading level a little bit what's going on physiologically. And then they understand versus me just being like, shut up and follow it. Shut up, follow it. Just don't worry about it. Just follow it. So nutrition, man, it's a very difficult thing because there's so much crap out there and there's so many celebrities spewing garbage. There's even doctors spewing garbage. Yeah. And my father's a physician, and he even told me, he's like, Chris, we had 1 nutrition class in medical school. 1. Yeah. And after that, we never touched it ever again. He goes, when I was in my residency and worked at the hospital, he goes, we did a consult with a dietitian because that's what they do. He goes, we're not writing books on nutrition because we don't know. I'm like, oh, thank you. So that's kind of how I approach it in that regard. But it's a difficult one because how some people are very superstitious about what they put in their body and what they don't. I've heard people tell me they're allergic to chicken. I'm like, how are you allergic to chicken? Do you get anaphylaxis? Do you get hives? Do you have trouble breathing? Oh, no, nothing like that. Then what happens? I just don't feel good on it. Okay, so it's not an allergy, So yeah.
I was wondering, so I think a lot of people get confused, and this is going to be like the most simple question ever. Why, please delineate for people why being a registered dietitian means so much, because I get people all the time will message me like, hey, I'm looking to work with a dietitian. I heard you're a dietitian. Like, I'm absolutely not a dietitian. I coach nutrition. If you're looking for a dietitian, here are dietitians, and they have no idea what the difference is.
Yeah, so I'll tell people what is a dietitian. A dietitian is a nationally accredited individual who's allowed to practice in the hospital, long-term care, dialysis clinics, and the education is nutrition, science-based nutrition. What does the current science say with food and cardiovascular disease, food and diabetes, food and ulcerative colitis, IBD, Crohn's, all medical nutrition therapy, tube feedings, all that kind of stuff. What does the science say? So it's very clear in our code of ethics. You know, we can't be practicing mumbo jumbo cabbage diet for 40 days, lose all your, or take this dietary supplement to cure cancer, or do all this crazy things that are not science-based. So you have to go through your, you know, your undergrad of nutrition dietetics, and that makes you eligible to be able to apply for a dietetic internship, which is anywhere from 1,200 to 1,400 hours. I don't know how many hours it is now. It was 1,300 when I did it. I think they may have added more. So it's basically 40 hours a week, almost for a year, of you interning with multiple different rotations: long-term care, clinical, hospital, ICU, sports nutrition, public health, a variety of different rotations to get you well-versed in what a dietitian does in each one of those settings. At the end of that internship, after you've obviously completed your undergrad, you have to take the National Registered Dietitian's exam, which is pretty extensive. It's online, it's timed. I mean, it's on the computer, it's timed. And you have to pass that, and then you're nationally recognized as a registered dietitian. And that makes you a registered dietitian. But it covers everything, man. Every job that a dietitian could do. And looking back at everything I've learned, did it help me become a better bodybuilder? I'm going to say yes, because it really allowed me to understand what is basically garbage information and what is good. Because you know how it is, the more you know, the more you're skeptical of hearing new things. And you may not dismiss it, where some people just dismiss it because the one camp of argument says the more educated you are, the more of a box you fit yourself in. I can't get out of the box because this is my education said, right? But my master's program kind of opened my eyes to like studies and how to interpret data, interpret statistics. And then you start scratching your head like, wow, we really don't know anything about nutrition, you know, because there's so many things that are constantly evolving and changing. And the more advancements in technology with data and science and all that stuff. So it's maybe become a better bodybuilder and be able to see through the crap, be able to identify studies, and be able to determine like if something's really bad or not. Because I've heard a lot of people say some ridiculous things in bodybuilding in regards to supplementation and kidney health and heart health. Here, take a bunch of Anadrol, do this, do that. But if you take this cardio supplement, you take this, you'll be totally fine. It's like, what?
You need that supplement.
Yeah. Oh my Lord. That gets me all the time. Like I hear, I'll be good. I take milk thistle. I'm good. Oh, you're good. Take 150 milligrams of Anadrol a day. You're good. But milk thistle is going to make everything fine. Okay.
Clear it right up.
Okay.
That sounds like a party.
Yeah. What the hell? What the hell? Oh my God. And
So-
like, I think also too, one thing is a lot of people reach out to me in the bodybuilding community who've already cooked their kidneys and even their heart with congestive heart failure. And they want me as a dietitian to fix them.
Yeah.
I'm like, listen, I can't fix you. I can advise you on what to eat to prevent further regression or slow down the regression of you needing a full kidney transplant. But like your bodybuilding days are done. You toasted, like it's over. I've had a lot of clients like that. Even with congestive heart failure too, very young, through high blood pressure, just cook their heart, kind of like Matt Porter's situation, you know? It's sad, but I mean, people are leading them in the wrong direction.
I'm really glad you made that distinction, because I think a lot of people in the nutrition space step outside their scope, right? They step outside their scope of, even myself, I have 2 master's degrees. I've been doing coaching for like 17 years. It's like, okay, well, there are things that I'm just not comfortable coaching through, right? Certain issues I know are outside my wheelhouse, but I know that for every person like myself, there's probably 1,000 who will say, yeah, write me the check. I'll help you out.
100%.
I'll prescribe you a meal plan. That's not what we do. We're not allowed to do that. But as a registered dietitian, you are.
Right. But the other aspect too of what you just said is, I think just in general, I could be wrong. This is a broad statement. Integrity is at an all-time low. And even if somebody doesn't have the education, they should have the integrity to say, I really do not know. I know somebody who's probably a better fit, who might be able to help you and safely. Let me refer you, versus being like, no, I got this. Let me just pull up Wikipedia real quick and figure out some base information to run off of. That is more my issue, because as you know, everybody's a coach today after one powerlifting meet, one bodybuilding show that they didn't win. And it's sad, because I remember being in those shoes. And when I did my first show, I hired somebody, I did terrible. The second show I did it myself, read all of Chris Tuttle's books. This is before I was a dietitian. I did really well and made a huge jump from the first year to the second year. And then some dude at the gym was like, can you help me with my show? I flat out said to him, I got no idea what I'm doing, dude. Like, I just did this myself. Like I'm not an expert. Like, I just followed, I got this information, read these books. You can read these books. And he goes, no, I want you to help me. I'll be like, dude, I'm flat out telling you right now, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll give it my best shot. And he goes, okay, how much? And I go, just give me $50. And then I helped him, and then he did well. And then his friend asked him what he did. And then it was the next person. I said to him, I go, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. You're the second person I've ever helped. But he was all on board, where versus you get the people be like, I'm the expert, $500 a month. Here, I'll take you through it. And then you see them on stage and you're like, dude's going to pass out and die. And he looks like he's 10 weeks out,
Yeah.
Tuttle Nutrition. We have no idea what we're doing.
Yeah.
So then, not to dissuade people from wanting to venture into being a nutrition coach, but if you are trying to find your foot in that ground and you don't know what you're doing, but you want to help people, what are some suggestions that you would recommend? Should you become a dietitian? Should that be the route that most nutrition people go, or should they hire a mentorship program? Like, what are your thoughts on how can a person from ground zero be the best nutritionist they can be?
All right. So for those of you out there who are looking for job stability, okay, and to be very versatile with your education, being a dietitian is the way to go. If my nutrition business fails tomorrow and I have to stop, I can get a job at 10 other places being a dietitian, okay? As long as I keep my license valid and continue to do my credits every 5 years, make sure I keep my up to date with my information, that stays valid. I can go anywhere in the country and find a job as a dietitian, okay? Dietitian also gives you a little bit of edge above others, because in the nutrition fitness field realm, dietitians are not weighted heavy. However, in the public eye, they are more.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's that, but you also going to go through a lot of schooling. All right. So like, I did my 4 years undergrad, I did a year of internship, and I did a year and a half my master's. You don't have to get your master's, but I went through a lot of school. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. So if people don't want to do that, you certainly can help learn nutrition, but you got to learn not just by hiring a coach, regurgitating what they made you do, and then regurgitating it back to your clients, is legitimately read, pick up some books. There's a lot of people out there who are educated, who do sports nutrition, who are RDs, and deal with athletes. Read some of their books, become well-versed in a wealth of knowledge, not just one book. And going into it, you guys must understand, if you are going to be a nutrition coach, there is no black and white. There is a lot to learn. So you got to keep an open mind and keep learning, and realize that you don't know everything, because everybody, just like as far as being youth or being new into something, the second you learn a little bit of information about a particular topic, you think you know it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you're in it for 10 years, you realize you know nothing, even though you know a hell of a lot more than you did the first day you walked in, right?
Right.
But there are some nutrition certifications that might help you get a base. Like, I know NASM has one, ISSA has one. This gives you general knowledge of nutrition. I don't know about nutrition strategies. Lane Norton makes a book, the Contest Prep Guide, which I think is a very good guide, book to get an idea of what a contest prep is like, and how to understand physiology, how the body works through preparation. Even Chris Tuttle's books are very, very basic, very simple reads, but there's a lot of good simplification of the process. But you got to do the work and do the books. You can't just, I see too many people hiring a coach, going through it once. I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to regurgitate what he did. I have so many clients, I can tell you, who take our plans verbatim, copy and paste, change the name, change 2 things, and then sell them. But as you guys know, it's the progression of the plan that makes the biggest difference. But people do that. They don't make things their own. They don't want to put the time in. But again, guys, dietitian, if you want job stability, it's going to cost money. It's going to cost time. And if you don't want to go that way, you can still be a nutrition coach and help people with nutrition until they make a law to prevent people from do that, because that is valid still in some states, believe it or not. That's a thing, but nobody really enforces it until somebody gets hurt. But you can still have many different sources out there. Just don't regurgitate people's plans. Actually read legitimate books and understand the whole process and everything.
Yeah. So then that brings me to another thing, right? So you have the books, you have the research and stuff, but then there's this other realm of like functional medicine and fixing hormones and these type of things that is very popular now within our industry, because there's so many people who get screwed up for contest prep, but there's not really that much. It's kind of frowned upon, right? When you say functional medicine to educated people in the academia world, they think of it as like, oh, functional medicine that's, you know, holistic, that's woo-woo. That's not really that necessary. What are your thoughts on the functional medicine side of things, and even using that as a route to go as a coach?
So a lot of that, as you know, there's not a lot of textbooks you can say on that, right? Because
Right.
it's a relatively new thing that's not really studied. However, you can find a lot of research on hormone, the effects on deprivation your hormones have during deprivation over long periods of time. We attended a seminar at the FNC, which is a RD accreditation, where you get credits, you attend seminars. And one of the seminars did a lot of studies on hormone effects, cortisol, testosterone in men and women, in Olympic athletes, and specifically special forces guys. What happens during Hell Week, before and after to the hormones. And it showed that testosterone dropped by like 40%, you know, over a period of time. And it took only 10 days for 90% of them to return to normal, where the women took up to 6 months to like a year to return to normal after a severe bout of deprivation. Those are gymnastics. But that's a lot of information. You probably have to study more on the side to get well versed of what happens to the body and how to correct it. But obviously stay away from these, you know, I see a lot of people like, oh, take this supplement, take that supplement, and you do this, and then a week you'll be fine. You can't really undo 6 months of shitting on your body in a week, you know?
Right.
But there's a lot of application for that, but you really got to know what you're doing and be well experienced in that. You can't, I see a lot of people who pretend they know what they're talking about in that regard, or they make things up, you know? Like the term insulin resistance, that gets thrown out a lot, right?
Yeah.
And we know in a medical standpoint, most bodybuilders are not insulin resistant, right? It's like you might have lost insulin sensitivity to a degree, but your fasting blood glucose is still below 95, right?
Right.
You don't have insulin resistance. So people understanding fully what that means and how to combat that is great. But you got to understand how the body works on a physiological level. And a lot of people don't, you know?
Yeah.
I had somebody from another country emailing me about insulin sensitivity, insulin resistance, carbohydrates, and his idea of how it worked was not correct. He was lucky he was asking me to explain to him to make it work, but how he was spinning it was like, that's not how it works at all. You know, it was not. He was accompanying it to like dietary fat only and carbohydrate intake. He wasn't accompanied to body fat percent. And obviously body fat percent has a huge to do with insulin resistance. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of misinformation, or, you know, in gym talk, you know, bodybuilders, a lot of bro science,
Yeah, for sure. There, with the special forces, I was at a conference too, and Ernie Fernando was the one giving the presentation. He does a lot of the research on the special forces guys, and they've recently done some research on them where they gave them testosterone during their training to see if that would combat some of the negative effects. And they actually found some really good positive correlations with the testosterone and not having the cortisol be spiked so high, and, you know, all the things that we know that testosterone can do when it's in your body instead of being deprived. And it always makes me think, if they're seeing all these great results, are they going to start giving the military people, you know, TRT and and the special
Of
forces
course not.
guys.
Oh, yeah.
In this political climate, being masculine is like the worst that you could possibly be.
But I
Oh
thought it
my
was cool
gosh,
that they're
could
at
you
least
imagine?
doing that research though, right?
Because you know what happened is one dude would lose his mind and they'd be like, he was on testosterone.
Yeah.
Testosterone made him more aggressive. It made him crazy. Well, meanwhile, 500,000 people are using testosterone without a problem, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I was listening to Robert Sapolsky talk, and he was talking about how if you look at the research, people who are given testosterone are actually more likely to volunteer their time and give back and bring more quality to life to people than they are going to be aggressive. People that are just aggressive in nature are going to just be a little bit more aggressive, but people that were given the testosterone actually they gave back more to their community. They were more caring and more given, which is a funny thing that doesn't really get thought about with testosterone levels.
It's funny you say that, because I heard an anecdotal saying years ago, and this dude at the gym goes, listen, and he goes, gear doesn't give you roid rage. He goes, if you're an asshole, he goes, you're going to be a super fucking asshole. He goes, but if you're a nice guy, you're probably going to be an even nicer guy.
Right.
He goes, it just kind of tends to amplify your own personality a little bit. He goes,
Exactly.
You can't fix stupid. He goes, you can't fix stupid, and you can't fix being an asshole. And he goes, that's just how it's going to be. He goes, that guy over there short circuiting the corner, he was an asshole 5 years ago before he did anything, you know?
Yeah. So as a registered dietitian, right, and you're reading the science and stuff, and all the science points to, right, calorie expenditure is the absolute end all be all to losing weight. Have you ever dealt with anyone that you've given them the proper amount of calorie expenditure and they should be losing weight, but they're just not? And what are some of the things that could cause that plateau to happen? Is it just them? Because I've heard two sides of the spectrum. It's one, they're not doing a great job tracking, they're not telling you things, and it still comes down to energy, calories in versus calories out. And then I've heard the other group say that, you know, it's their hormones are out of whack. They have high cortisol, low testosterone, or if they're women, they're estrogen dominant, and that's what's causing them to not lose weight. What are your thoughts on those two things, those two variables?
Yeah, it's actually both.
Okay.
And honestly, with preparation for bodybuilding shows, I deal with it with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody. All right. It's like, so first off, keep this very simple for people. Your maintenance calories is a moving target. It's a constant moving target, especially enter into a caloric deficit. Perfect example. I'll build this kind of from the ground up. You're on your maintenance calories. You come to somebody, I want to gain weight. Okay, great. Let's start by adding 300 calories a day of carbohydrates, of energy. And then we'll leave your maintenance calories to your off training days. See what happens. A week goes by, body weight doesn't change. How do you feel? Feel great. Okay. We're going to add another 300 calories to your training days. And then we're going to add just 300 calories above your maintenance on your off days. A week goes by, no change in body weight. Now you're like, but mathematically, this doesn't make sense. What's going on here? Well, there's a lot of things that are occurring. Thermal effective food, which doesn't equate for that much of an increase. It's not like we're going to eat food and just never gain weight because of the thermal effect of digesting it. But you also have, your body has leptin and ghrelin, right? So your body's metabolism changes a lot based on how much you eat. You know, sometimes when you eat a lot of food, your body gets really hot, right? You're eating a lot of food, you're digesting a lot of food, metabolism's starting to pick up a little bit. Leptin says, oh my God, I have enough fat cells in my body. So your leptin's like, I'm going to start lifting that dimmer switch up, accelerating your body's ability to metabolize fat as energy because fat stores are relatively full. So your body's not storing fat very efficiently at all, even though you're in excess. And that's why your weight's not really moving, and you're probably training harder, training heavier. You might even be moving more and expending more without even realizing it. And appetite's starting to go down. So, all right, I'm going to add another 300 calories. So now we're 900 calories above your maintenance, what was maintaining your body weight. And now we're 600 calories above your maintenance on your off days. And now you gain a pound. Great. All right, let's see what happens. You continue. Eventually your body's going to be like, I'm not getting any more weight. All right, we got to add another 300 calories. Long story short, with the whole off season, anybody who's a bodybuilder or trying to gain weight understands this. You get to the point where like you physically can't eat any more food.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm eating all this food. You're not eating milkshakes and junk food, which is going to metabolize the fat quickly, but you're eating 420 grams of rice. You're eating 8 ounces of meat. You're eating 20 grams of fat per meal, 7 times a day. And you're at a body weight where you just can't get any heavier. And you're scratching your head. You're like, what is going on? By this accord, this mathematical equation, it says I'm 1,000 calories in a surplus per day. Why am I gaining? There's a lot of hormones at stake there. Leptin, ghrelin, testosterone, metabolism. Your body's not wanting to store fat at that point. Your body's just doesn't want to give. Now, on the opposite, when you're trying to go down, or actually, hold on, to gain weight further, a lot of times people have to venture to fast food, junk food, things are easy to eat, crappier calories, etc. But that's another conversation. Now going down, now you're like, well, I've been maintaining my weight now 1,000 calories above my old maintenance. So that means if I just drop 1,000 calories down, I'm going to lose 2 pounds of body fat the first week. 70% of the time, nothing happens. You drop that 1,000 calories and you're like, I'm a little hungrier, I got more energy, but like my scale only lost a pound. That's weird. So then you go another week and then you lose nothing. And you're like, I've lost a pound, but I'm, according to this, I'm down 7,000 calories in a deficit over 7 days. What's going on? Well, your body is so good at countering what you're doing eating wise. If your body wasn't good at countering the calories constantly going in, going out, you would starve really quickly and die, or you just get so fat super quick every time you overate. So your body has a way of kind of like doing this all the time with what you're doing, calorie expenditure, calories in, calories out. And obviously some bodies are more sensitive than others. Let's be honest. We know the people that gain fat really easily. And we know the people who have almost an impossible time gaining fat. We're not talking about the outliers. So then I'm looking at this guy's diet. I'm like, all right, I'm going to drop another 500 calories. I'm just going to be aggressive. And obviously I can always pull back. So now we're 1,500 calories in a deficit. And now he loses a half a pound. So I'm like, you know what? I'm taking 2,000 calories off, 2,000 calories total. So now another 500. And now he starts to lose weight. And now every single week, he's losing a pound to 2 pounds. He feels great. He's getting shredded. And then it'll come to a point again where your body metabolically adapts. People goes, what does that mean? It means your body's starting to become more resistant to burning fat. Leptin starts to, I always think leptin and ghrelin on a dimmer switch. Leptin starts to dip lower. Ghrelin starts to increase. Your appetite starts to get bigger, but rate of fat loss starts to decrease. So now you got to expend more calories. Long story short, you get to the point where you're very low calories. You're fatigued, you're tired, you're doing an hour cardio a day, you're not losing any weight. Now people are like, well, what do I do now? I go keep going lower. You go lower and lower, nothing's going to happen. You might lose a little bit of mass, muscle mass. You might get softer. Now this is for bodybuilders, by the way. Sometimes it's a little different in different situations. But now fatigue's high, appetite's super high. You're not sleeping well, not performing well in the gym. So now you're in a state of fatigue. And in my experience, what is going on, and I have my theories, but I do know as a coach, when someone's that fatigued, they're not progressing any further.
Right.
We have to mitigate that fatigue immediately. I pull cardio back. I might give them 300 calories back and say carbohydrates. I tell them no failure training at all for 72 hours. Let's pull back. 3 days goes by, he's down 2 pounds. And they're like, oh, I don't understand why I backed off intensity. I lowered my cardio. I added 300 calories. My fatigue is better and I look harder and more shredded. Well, cortisol dropped. Your body's releasing water. Your thyroid function is probably improving, because we do know research states that very low carbohydrate diet for a long period of time does affect thyroid function. And what I mean by that is T4 converts more to reverse T3, not to your active T3. So your body's like, I got to slow metabolism down. So your body starts to revert more to the reverse T3, which is the inactive form. So it doesn't have that same effect as T3 does with your ATP reactions in your body. That's another way your body is categorized as metabolically adapting. It's getting used to that calorie amount. So then you hit it again, right? You bring the 300 calories down again, and then you increase the cardio, and you keep doing that, push and pull, push them until they're right at that fatigue. Or if they don't fatigue and they keep losing, then you keep going or you pull back. But it's really leptin, ghrelin, fatigue, cortisol. Is it testosterone? Yeah, of course. But research has showed with natural bodybuilders who were drug-free, almost every single one of them is hypogonadism the day of the show.
Oh, tanked, yeah.
Tanked. You can't mitigate that, even if they diet over a long period of time. Insanely low body fats, running your body on thin, you could still get lean. It's more difficult. You're going to feel like ass. You're not going to have any sex drive, but there's not a lot you can do nutritionally to keep your testosterone at optimal levels. Now, women are a whole nother animal. Oh my Lord. So women you can't take a woman and be like, here's 700 calories, 2 hours of cardio, see in 12 weeks shredded. It doesn't work that way. They're more tricky. I do believe women have to, in my experience, and I have no scientific basis to support this, but this is my experience. Women have to do a lot more cardio and focusing on the caloric expenditure than they can be in a deficit. If a man's eating 4,000 calories in the off season, there's a little bit to work with there, right? No women's eating 4,000 calories, right? Most women are like 2,200 to 2,600 in the off season at most, but you're not bringing them down to 700, and there's not a lot to work with. And the second you starve a woman's body, the woman's body just pushes back.
Yeah.
And so I focus more on caloric expenditure with them, step counts, double sessions of cardio, and dieting over a longer duration. That's the only way to do it for them, because I don't know, their body is, for one, they have lower testosterone, so the body doesn't burn as much fat. Two, their body favors that fat environment for, baby making and all that kind of stuff. And they just don't handle stress the same way physically as men do and respond. Like, you can starve a man pretty good for 10 days and get a good amount of body fat off. You can't really do that with the majority of women. You just can't. And then reverse dieting is a whole other ballgame for either one of them, getting yourself out of that hole. But it's all about not digging that hole. And a lot of you guys who are listening, who are on the PED side, what some women are doing today versus 15 years ago, drug-wise, is out of control. And if you're a female listening to this, don't even venture down that road.
Yeah.
Because I could go on a whole separate tangent on what women are doing today to get as shredded as they are in the women's physique division. Not all of them, because we all know genetic freaks and outliers that don't need to do much to look shredded, but a lot of them are doing crazy things drug-wise to get that lean.
Yeah.
Part of me really wants you to go on that tangent.
Yeah. it's the exact same thing with powerlifting right now.
Yeah.
Is it?
It's bad, man.
Like 400 mgs of Anadrol a day.
You'd be surprised, man.
We've done some stuff.
I've heard 1,500 milligrams of test, 500 milligrams of tren at 15 weeks out for a woman.
Oh,
for a woman?
For a woman.
Yeah,
that's a fucking party.
At first, I'm like, 15 mgs of test. I'm like, that's high. That's not
that's pretty
crazy.
high.
I've heard higher. And then he's like, a woman. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's sad. I don't help many females anymore for that reason. Like, I flat out say to them, like, I'm personally not going to be responsible for you destroying your femininity forever for 5 years of competing. And then once you're all done in competing, your body will revert back to its whatever form it will be in, and your face, your voice, and your health will be destroyed. I'm not having any part in that.
Yeah,
I won't do it.
That's great to hear. Man.
There's also a lot of advocates now, like, look at like Danny Reardon or Jamie Pinder, having gone through, Jamie finishing 5th at the Olympia and now having to have facial reconstruction and being this huge advocate against crazy PED cycles for women. And you're like, that's fucking scary.
It's scary. They don't understand. I try to tell people and they're like, well, I really want to win. I'm like, yes, I know you want to win. I get it. But listen, this is, as you guys are finding out now with powerlifting, it's like powerlifting, bodybuilding, this is a small part of our life.
Yeah.
Like, when we're 55 years old and we got a 3 o'clock shadow and we have health problems and a deepened voice and you're losing your hair, are you going to be like, man, that plastic trophy was so worth it? You're not going to be saying that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Sometimes people got to pull themselves back a little bit and listen to that coach being, listen, obviously that woman's doing this and winning, and this woman's not doing any of that and she's winning, because that's genetics. And unfortunately, in the world of PEDs, say, for example, basketball, I can't go to anybody to be 6'7" and dunk a basket. I can't do that. Right. I can't take a drug for that. But in these PED sports, people can make up for genetics to a degree by doing absurd things, what they'll ultimately take years off their life and destroy their entire health and the way they appear, but they just don't see that. And that's sad.
Yeah, it's very, very
Agree.
unfortunate for sure. Anything else you want to end with, Paul?
It might be a long question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So you touched on reversing out.
Yeah.
This has been a conversation my girlfriend just did her first show. She competed in wellness and did quite well. And she's going through the reverse dieting process. And she more so did like a recovery diet. She just got her calories back up as quickly as she could, trying to get back to training and feeling better. What could you maybe give maybe what is a recovery diet? What's a reverse diet? And which you would personally advocate under what circumstances?
Okay. So the overall goal in a recovery, reverse diet, however you want to call it, is to rebuild your relationship with food. Almost every single person comes out of a show binge eating, followed by guilt, followed by feeling like crap, feeling out of control, lost, depressed, etc. That's the truth. People don't want to admit that, and they post pictures of their cheat meals and they're all happy, and then 3 days later they're crying. So the goal is to prevent that. I tell them, males and females, I go, listen, I want you to enjoy food that you haven't eaten. All right. It is the big difference between going to Red Robin, getting a burger and fries, sharing a dessert with your husband, versus eating as many fries as you humanly can eat, and then eating as many sweets as you could possibly eat. Like, there's a big difference there. Sunday morning, maybe go out for breakfast, have a normal breakfast. We don't need to go to all you can eat pancakes. Okay. Because I promise you will regret that. Monday, you get back on calories. Now, people always say, well, how many calories? The whole goal is to prevent yourself from binging. So the calories can't be too low, okay? You need to put variety back in your diet immediately. It can't just be straight rice, potatoes, chicken, the same things you're eating in your diet. I don't care. And people are like, oh, I'm hardcore. I just want to eat oatmeal. Yeah, until the Snickers bar comes out, right? So get the variety back in your food. Look at what foods kind of you want to eat. Oh, Van's waffles. I can work those into my plan. Oh, I'm going to make turkey wraps with salsa and low calorie light sour cream. Get foods you like, make them match your macros. Start the macros probably, I would say, if I was going to get a random outlook, around 12 weeks out calories, where you are around 12 weeks out. Start right there. After Saturday and Sunday, the whole goal there, Saturday and Sunday after a show, is not to binge, but to eat off plan of the foods that you like and be reasonable. Monday, get back on your plan and be that flexible dieting, so to speak, but still remain structured. Don't train to failure that week. Don't go to the gym being an animal because you lost and you're upset and you want to win, so you got to train extra hard. That's not going to make you win better. It's going to put you behind. You got to recover your body. Have a meal off plan, at the end of the week with a significant other. Turn your electronics off, turn the phone off, be distraction free as you enjoy that meal to rebuild that relationship with food, because you don't want to get to that point where you have anxiety around food. Somebody invites you out to a party. Oh, I just got off my diet. Like, I got to be good. I don't want to go because I'm nervous. That's what you want to correct. You need to get back to that normalcy and know how to have balance, because your mind is crazy. And the other misconception I hear people say all the time is, oh, Chris, my metabolism's ripping. I'm hungry all the time. And I look at their information. I'm like, dude, you're up 13 pounds in 4 weeks. Your metabolism's not ripping. It's not. Right? Because you're hungry does nothing to do with metabolism. I mean, we see obese people who are hungry all the time. They're 400 pounds. Their metabolism's not ripping. So you got to understand too, exiting a show, that appetite will be falsely high. It's not real. If you follow that appetite, it's going to continue for substantial weight gain, substantial. And the other misconception of post-show is it's the best time to gain muscle. That's actually not true. One, your body is beat up. It's not the same strength as it was at 12 weeks out. Joints might be a little beat up. And the insulin sensitivity at the fat cell is by far greater than the muscle cell. Your body will store fat so freaking fast.
Yeah.
And people sometimes will eat. And 5 days later, they're like, look, dude, I'm still shredded. And then 20 days later, you're like, bro, you got a gut like overnight. Like it just comes out of nowhere. So that's the approach I take. I got to tell them, like, listen, get your mind out of, you have to make progress. This segment is recover your body, and most importantly, your mind, because that whole binge eating cycle that people enter in, that can destroy your whole off season. Because 8 weeks, you do it wrong, 8 weeks post show, you gain 35 pounds of fat. Your joints hurt from the rapid weight gain. You can't sleep. You got sleep apnea. You have a terrible self-image of yourself. Now you have terrible appetite for your rice and your chicken because you've been eating donuts and junk food. And now you're in a horrible position to actually make ground with muscle moving forward. So like I coach my people to maintain a relatively lean physique, understanding that they can't maintain that contest prep, especially women. Women love the way they look. And then when they don't look like that, they're very, very emotional. But they have to understand and be repeated to them over and over again that it's not sustainable. That's not the goal. Because they keep looking back at the pictures being like, I love the way I look. I loved it. It's just like, that's not what we're doing here, you know? So it's a lot of psychological, but I've been very successful this year with it more than ever with what I just said. I've changed my approach every year, just like I'm sure you guys would help people. You're always trying to be better. And I've changed my approach this year, and I've had a lot of success with getting guys 10, 12 weeks out from their show. And they're still like at 5-6 weeks body fat, eating tons of food, appetite's great, training's phenomenal. And then when they start their first push in the off season, joints are good, body fat's low, appetite's good, they're ready to rock. Because we all know that when you're doing a push in the off season to get bigger, body fat is inevitable. It's going to be gained. So you can't be a fat ass already starting your off season, or else you're going to be in a situation where you're going to lose your appetite, insensitivity is going to go down. You're going to be sluggish. Training is going to be poor. Your mechanics are going to be poor. So that's one thing. You're setting yourself up for that success.
Yeah. Do you have a rate of gain that you look for during that 8 to 12 week phase post show, or are you just purely sticking to like psychological feedback?
Oh no, everything. So I always tell them it's very normal to gain 10 pounds the first week. 100% normal. Your body it just seems to me, on average, that's what most people, these are men. 10 pounds. I would say 6 to 12 pounds the first 7 days. And depending how they are, you know, and what they look like, they might come down a couple pounds, because obviously they might, depending how hard they binge, because you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink, right?
Yeah.
Some people are like, oh, I listened to you on the sweets, man. I ate a bag of jelly beans, I threw up everywhere, and then I binged on this. So like, there's a lot of that. And then people were freak out. They got the swollen ankles. So like, should I go to the ER? Swollen ankles? I'm like, no, relax. Should I take a Diazide? No, don't do that either. So I would say around 8 to 12 pounds the first week. And then after that, maybe 3 pounds. And then I just want a slow, gradual gain after that. Yeah. But obviously it's situational. I mean, some guys gain, I got a dude, he was 7 weeks post show and he only gained 6 pounds.
Yeah.
But he felt fine. Yeah. I'm like, if you feel fine and you're that shredded, he's got glutes still. I'm like, whatever, dude, like keep it.
As long as they're not binging, right? That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, like no binging. And sometimes they'll mess with me like, man, like I'm feeling really restricted. I'm not the coach who's like, stop being a pussy, just fucking follow it. I'm like, all right, dude, well, if you're feeling restricted, that means the binge eating's coming, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, listen, dude, all right. So when's the last cheat meal? They're like, oh, I had it Saturday. I just like, I'm chomping the bits, man. Like, I just want to eat the jar of peanut butter. I'm like, all right, it's cool. Tonight, what do you want tonight? And they're like, I want pizza. I'm like, we're not going to do pizza. What else do you want? And he'd be like, well, I could do sushi. I'm, okay, why don't we order like 7 rolls? All right, nothing fried. Eat 7 rolls, get really full. Let me know how you feel. And the next day, I feel better, man. I feel better. And today I'm only up 2 pounds. I'm like, if you binged on pizza, it would have been up a lot more than that, you know?
Yeah.
And then you kind of feed them. And then eventually they're like, then it calms down. But when people feel psychologically restricted, and unfortunately feeling restricted is perspective. I could go 30 days without having a cheat meal and I never feel restricted. Same. Because that's my perspective, right? Where some people, the second you tell them they can only eat on Friday, they're like, so only Tuesday. I can't wait till Friday, because it's their perspective on what they can and cannot have.
Yeah.
But it's the restriction that you have to that I try to battle. It's like, what would make you not feel restricted? I got a guy right now eating 2 Oreos a day. He's this post show. And he's like, dude, I'm going to crack. I'm like, all right, what's your vice? He's like, dude, I love Oreos. I'm like, all right, let's make a compromise. How many Oreos have you been eating? He's like, Oh, kind of a lot. I'm like, all right, well, how about we do 2? We'll start with 2. Do 2 a day. 2 at the end of the night. End of the night, when nobody's around, eat 2 Oreo cookies. And now it's been like a week, and he's like, bro, I feel so much better.
Yeah.
It's just, and then eventually that will fade, and he won't eat Oreos anymore.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And what's 2 Oreos with like 200 calories? So at the end of the day, it's
yeah, I think 3 Oreos is 180, right?
Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's, not that big. Right.
Correct.
So it's all about the perspective. So shifting perspective, trying to bring more variety into their day-to-day life with food, and having a better psychological viewpoint with food, but then also getting their calories up to where they can get all their hormones and everything back to a healthy state.
Yeah, the people want to do this. They binge eat Friday, Saturday, and wake up Monday and they spilled over bad. And then they're like, I have to get back on diet. I'm like, that's not what you're doing. You're not jumping back on your 2 weeks out diet. That's not what you're doing here.
No.
You're going to eat this. Well, I feel so fat. Dude, you're going to enter into a whole cycle, a road you don't want to go down. And that's where I got to pull people back, especially women. Women will start to see the scale go up too fast and they panic. Can't panic.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time, Chris. We know you're very busy. So we're very grateful for you coming on the show and giving us a little bit of insight into a little bit of bunch of different aspects of things with the nutrition side. So thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, no problem, man. This is awesome.
And if people want to get a hold of you, I know that you say you said you're on a wait list and everything and you're very busy, but if people want to get a hold of you or follow your content and all that stuff, do you mind giving them the information to do that?
Yeah. So my website's TuttleNutrition.com. My Instagram handle is IFBB Pro Chris Tuttle. And I also have Tuttle Nutrition as an Instagram for a lot of my general pop weight loss, general pop clients. So actually everybody, and information things on there. A lot of my own personal page. I mainly just post my bodybuilders and my competitors, but that's like my little side passion. But the majority of people help our general population, nutrition related disease and things like that. A lot of people think that I only help bodybuilders.
Yeah.
It's like, do you help non-people? I'm like, dude, 10% of my clients are bodybuilders. The rest aren't.
What about powerlifters who want to be bodybuilders?
I have a professional strongman now going to be a bodybuilder. I've had powerlifters. I actually have a powerlifter now who's transitioning into bodybuilding. He just wants, but he won't let go of it completely, right? He still wants to do his lifts, here and there. So I supplement in other things with training and nutrition, but that's totally fine. And then eventually I get them to pull all the way.
Well, yeah, you might hear from me. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm going to do a show in 2022. I've told myself.
It's fun. It's funny you say that is like my friend, Matt Mills, professional strongman. He's getting to bodybuilding this year. And he said the same thing. He's like, dude, my body can't do these strongman events. Like it just can't do it. And now he's like, this bodybuilding training is awesome. Like this high rep stuff is joints and he feels great.
Yeah. Mills is a cool guy. And the fact that he does MMA scares the shit out of me. But that's like, it's actually not my body right now feels great. I want to do it more so for the learning experience, for like to find a different way to push my body and just to fucking just do it. I know awesome. I'm going to suck. I'm shaped like a fucking square.
You'd be surprised.
You have a lot to work with. You have a lot you're going to have to work with on this one, Chris.
Hey, man.
Dude, I can't tell you. Sometimes people send me pictures and I'm looking at them. I'm like, man, I just don't know. But based on their shape in the off season where their body fat's distributed, it's hard to tell. And then all of a sudden they get to 4 weeks out. I'm like, they got better shape. And then they get inside out and their shape completely changes. And it's like, wow, dude, you're 4 weeks out to 1 week, 1 day out. You look like a totally different person.
I'm quite lean right now, but like literally my obliques like fold over my hips.
Oh yeah.
Like just a square.
You gotta focus all on those lats and all those quads. Change that illusion.
Perfect. I've only torn both of those things.
You're built for it, then. You're good.
Built for it. Built different.
Awesome.
All right, Chris. Thanks for your time, man. Appreciate you. Enjoy your new scenery in Houston or Fort Worth. Sorry, and thanks so much, man.
Thanks.
Awesome. No problem.